Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the disability meeting for February 2017. Let's make our introductions for the record.
Good morning, everyone. Rosemary Tavelis, designee for Truth Control News.
Samantha Gagan, Council NYPD, present by invitation.
John Dorsett, designee for Controller Scott Stringer.
Tony Rodriguez, designee for Mayor Bill de Blasio.
Phil Dukes, designee for Commissioner Josh Yuha, Finance.
Brian Berge, law by invitation.
Amy Cassidy, law by invitation.
Joseph Alejandro, designee for Patrick Lynch. John Puglisi for Bog Abdul-Jabbar.
Chris McGrath, PBA by invitation.
Corey Grable, PBA, Chairman Board.
Mark Marino, PBA by invitation.
Rod Sharp, PBA by invitation.
David Morris, PBA by invitation.
Gary DeRosa, SBA, designee for Ed Mullins.
Vincent Valiant, designee for SBA President Ed Mullins.
Nick Sifuni by invitation as counsel, SBA, LBA, CEA.
Steve Babilia, LBA, designee for Lou Tarko.
Roy Richter, CEA.
Kenny Sparks, DEA, designee for Mike Palladino.
Karen Paxtis, DEA, present by invitation.
Artie Williams, DEA by invitation.
Sherry Chance, the actuary, present by invitation.
Eli Kleinman, NYPD Chief, servant by invitation.
Bob Sensky Stead, Pension Fund by invitation.
Kevin Holloran, Pension Fund by invitation.
Therese Gallagher, Medical Division by invitation.
Diane Carr, Pension Fund.
Diaz, Pension Fund by invitation.
Keith Snow, Office of the Actuary by invitation.
Mike Jakubowicz, Pension Fund by invitation.
Mary Young.
Angelo Chambliss, Pension Fund by invitation.
Lisa Garcia, Pension Fund, present by invitation. Aisha Linehan, Pension Fund, present by invitation.
Okay, Joe?
Ready? Okay. Page 1 to confirm the next meeting date, Wednesday, March 8, 2017. Pages 2 through 13.
Pages 2 through 14.
Oh.
Nothing of a controversial nature, Joe. So move.
Okay. Thank you, Ken. So moved. Okay. Next item, resolution regarding other post-employment benefits.
So this is the annual request that I've put to the board. It's been passed in the last 12 years. It is to authorize me to use the data that I already have, pension data that already resides in my office for OPEB purposes. It is tweaked this year out of administrative fees, since it is my second and third time going through annual processes now and trying to have more efficiency in the processes that are in my office. And instead of coming to ask for a vote every year, this resolution has been modified so that as long as GASB does require us to calculate the OPEB liabilities for the state capital purposes, I would like requesting an automatic approval so that we can expedite our process. It is very important that we do move through this process more quickly because GASB implemented new statements of requirements for disclosure, GASB 74 and 75. It is requiring my office to produce an additional report, and our deadline is very tight already at the end of the year to fulfill the comptroller's needs for the city CAFR. So this would greatly help my office.
Good question. So, Sherry, I think there's concerns with the automatic renewal feature of the resolution, and I'm wondering if, I know that Kevin had handed out a resolution that was adopted February 10th, 2016, and I'm just curious as to whether or not it would meet your needs if we just renew that resolution as adopted by the board on February 10th, 2016, and then modify it to authorize use of data for the period ending June 30th, 2016.
I think that would be my needs for this year, yes, but Keith did draft this resolution. It's the same paragraphs. There's 5 paragraphs that's reordered differently. And if we could just perhaps take the 2017 resolution and change the dates on them and take out the parts that are of concern.
Well, I would feel comfortable. And I understand your feeling about efficiency, and I get that. So that would just mean that maybe you come a month earlier. But I always feel comfortable having to review the matter before the board, and I think it should always. I don't like to just grant anything in perpetuity going forward. I like to always review it. Things change. and despite efficiency, and I feel more comfortable reviewing the request every year. So with that, looking at the language that I have a more concern about is about using the data each subsequent year thereafter. I think to the extent that it's consistent with the 2016, I'm comfortable with that. Any language that would change it and request it going forward, and again, in perpetuity, I have a concern about. So I wouldn't want that. But I also have other issues with this, with the request. And so just to kind of update the board, and I think we had a very lengthy meeting on some data matters, and I think at the end, we had some sort of agreement in principle to meet again regarding some outstanding data requests of your office, and that didn't come to fruition. And I brought Dave and Raj, who work for the PBA, and had been going back and forth with your office, I believe, for almost a year. So I would just like them to just reiterate kind of where we're at with what the data request was.
So before they speak, I just want to make sure that there are emails that you've received. There was 3 emails from my office, 2 pertaining to the data request that you had sent subsequent to last month's meeting. We did respond twice, and we had recognized it and acknowledged it, and saying that that's a FOIL request between your office and the Office of the Actuary. That is not a police pension fund matter. That should not be discussed at a public board meeting. It's between my office and your office. That's number 1. And number 2 is I want to make sure that you did receive the email of this resolution, because you said that you like to review it before the board meeting. This was sent last month.
To the extent that latter part, I did receive the email regarding this. I only wanted the 2016 resolution to compare, because that was not attached to your request for the OPEB information this year. I could not refer.
Customarily send prior resolutions when sending new ones.
Well, to the extent that we're changing something, even language wasn't even highlighted to change the resolution. Even though it's a recurring resolution, there was no change to it. And I think it's just maybe as a matter of courtesy alone, it would be nice to allow trustees to refer to language that was changed.
In the email.
Excuse me?
It was explicitly stated in the email. The email that had this new resolution attached. In the body of the email, it was explicitly stated what my changes were.
Okay. Well, I didn't refer to the email. I'm referring to the actual resolution. So. And it's always nice to have a.
We don't necessarily highlight changes.
But excuse me, while I'm talking, I'd let you interrupt. But so I'd like to be able to refer to the language and see the changes, so that I know that the change has occurred or your requested change, and then we can always talk about it at the meeting. But I'd like to let Dave, because I think we had gone back and forth in the public meeting, public sessions for over a year. So to the extent that maybe there's disagreement as to what we're actually looking for, I think that way it's reiterated here on the record that we've had prior to on the public sessions.
Well, again, I think that it has been discussed in public session for a year, because part of that discussion involved the Police Pension Fund Board.
Right.
However, the current request that we have been corresponding with in the last month is not a police pension fund matter. It's strictly a request to my office, and we treat it as a full request.
How do you make the determination that it's not a pension fund matter?
Because the data is the OA's data.
Excuse me?
It's the Office of the Actuary's data.
All of it?
The request that you have submitted, the information that you need.
Do you agree with that?
The information that you already have is through the Police Pension Fund, which you already got last month.
Well, just to start from the beginning, I know there's a very long and tortured history of the PBA's request, but if you recall, the original request was not to the Police Pension Fund. It was to the Office of the Actuary back in January of last year. We were directed back to the pension fund by you to get the OPEB data, and we were told that it was essentially the same data that was used to perform the valuation. That's partly the case. Unfortunately, it doesn't have some very vital information, such as pensionable earnings, that you'd need to value anything. So we followed up with your office again, not the police pension fund. We were always seeking the actuary's data. We spoke to representatives from your office. We were told that they were going to make best efforts to provide the data to us. We didn't hear back for months. When we followed up again, we were told that in order for your office to release any data, then we would need direction from the board to do that. So at every turn, just to keep the record clear on this, we were seeking actuary's office data, not data in possession of the police pension fund. Now, it's really all data of the police pension fund because you're using it to perform the police pension fund's valuation, and it's primarily data that comes from police pension. Some of the data comes from the Office of Payroll, it's my understanding. Is that right?
So I guess let me back up. So the request that has the correspondence that we've had in the last year or so, and there's been back and forth, and we are seeking additional time to review it because it is the request that you're submitted has conflicting information. You know, part of it is police pension fund data, part of it is OA data, and the portion that is police pension fund, that's why I directed you to this board to ask for that specific information because that's not our data.
Well, we just want the data that you use to perform the valuation.
Correct.
I think that's pretty clear. I mean, you provided,
And
the office has provided that
that's
data
what
before.
I'm reiterating. That's an issue between your office and my office. This is not the forum to be discussing that. And I've addressed it already. It's a full request. We're working on it. We submitted, 2 emails to you in response and saying that we will meet our deadlines.
In January, we were told that it's going to be, now it's a FOIL
Initially,
request.
It was given in January.
Before it was going back to the board, at every turn, it's some other reason why the data can't be provided. Now it's FOIL.
I think we had this discussion offline that what you're requesting is a change throughout the year. So I had asked that you put in.
Wait,
really-
it's the same request
talking.
that
Let me finish
we've
first.
had, because you're misstating it, so.
All right, well, we're only one at a time. Why don't you finish your sentence and then we'll turn it back to the PBA. Just finish
My office was confused about what we were requesting because it changed throughout the year. So that's why I said, can you please send us a new request of exactly what you want? And that was in January. According to our FOIL policy, we have 5 days to respond. We reviewed the request because of the confusion. We needed more time to review it. And we set a date of this month, I believe it's February 13th, which is next week. And we will respond to your request.
We have requested from day one the actuarial data file used for evaluation. That's never changed. The only thing that's changed is we've requested updated information since then, as that it's our understanding that's become available. The data that we've requested has not changed. It changed when we came back here because we also, in the interest of compromise, we're trying to get the same information from the police pension fund. But we've been seeking the actuarial data file from the actuary's office since January of 2017. It did not, I'm sorry, of 16. It did not become a FOIL request somehow until
last month,
the last meeting, the January 2017
There were
meeting.
discussions that we were directing you to get the data that you wanted. We felt that your request had changed, and that's why I directed you to the police pension.
How?
And again, now right now it's a FOIL request. We're treating it as a FOIL request. It's specifically to my office. And again, this is not the forum for discussing it because it is not a board decision to be made.
Well,
It's a decision with my office.
to the extent that you feel what you feel, excuse me, to the extent you feel what you feel, I respect that. But we determine here at the board what we feel is necessary to get business done before the board. And what we asked you before, and I know that it was consistent, we asked clearly in several emails going back last year, actuarial data file. That didn't change. That language never changed. So to the extent that your office misdirected us, maybe unintentionally, to the pension board, whatever it was, we did all the steps necessary to get the data, and we've always had the outstanding request to your office with the actual data file. That has never changed. Now, in January, going back and forth to a meeting that we agreed to, and all of a sudden there was an agenda to be requested, questions to be asked prior to, and then we were going to go, we were questioning whether that needed to be done, and suddenly it was a change, and now we were told that it was going to be a FOIL request. So, I have several questions, but I just want to allow Raj to ask the question that he had in mind before he was cut off, so.
No, I think it was, just to clarify that, we have a long written history of that the request was made in January of 2016, and multiple written and oral conversations where the request hasn't changed. So this notion that there was confusion about what we were requesting, there was no confusion. Nothing has changed in what we were requesting from January of 2016. So to the extent that someone is saying that it's now a FOIL issue because our request has changed from January 2016, and the reason that we were directed to the pension fund last year because that was one set of requests, and now it's a FOIL issue because the nature of our request has changed. The record just doesn't support that interpretation.
So I would respectfully disagree that the request did not change because I have emails, including the attachment that you sent last month, that said that you wanted, there are times that you're asking for the pension data, the valuation data. There's at times that you're asking for the OPEB data. There are times you're asking for the raw data, and there are at times that you're asking for the valuation funds data. So those are 4 separate files, okay, and perhaps 3.5 separate files. And so, again, I was trying to understand what the request that you guys are asking for was. It is perhaps in your mind, you're asking for the same thing, but if you read carefully the emails, they're asking for different files. So, and to respond to Joe about the, why was an agenda requested, again, I don't think this is a forum to it, but to respond to your question in public session, yes, we did agree to meet, and I did not disagree to meet. I was just simply asking for the purpose of our meeting and hence an agenda. And we subsequently did not meet because in your email you stated very clearly that you no longer felt the need to meet.
And
So my office has been willing to work with you, has been trying to understand what your request is, and getting you and directing you to the appropriate sources of where you should find what you need.
So that's a neat summation of the email, although it had more meat in it when I sent it. Also said that we didn't think the meeting was necessary because we had clearly requested the data, and the question was the meeting would be unnecessary because we were clear, and so therefore we should expect the data. That's when I got an email, a curt email from your office about it would be now a FOIL request. So I'm going to ask the question, are we going to be getting the requested data as per my prior request of your office?
That is something that's being reviewed.
Okay. And second,
work on getting you
okay.
appropriate.
Second, are you treating every request by every trustee as a FOIL request of your office now?
Every request is treated as a FOIL request.
Every
If
request.
If it's not from a board member with board requesting for board-related material or pension fund-related material as a board purpose.
I'm sorry, that's pretty broad.
So if it's a board member asking for information pertaining to the board for board matters, for the pension fund matters, then that's not a FOIL request. A FOIL request is if it's a non-board member asking for issues or data or information that is not related to the pension funds.
So who would be a non-board member asking for data of your office?
Anybody who's not a board member.
Anybody who's not a board member listed on, so there could be anybody in the city who requests the data from your office?
Yes, but keep in mind that there are people in the city that wear 2 hats who are board members, but could potentially not be a board member based on what they're asking and the purpose of what they're asking for.
Okay. All right, you have any other? No.
How do you make a determination of whether it's something pertaining to the board business?
That gets reviewed according to our FOIL policy.
I'm sorry?
That gets reviewed according to our FOIL policy.
And is there a written FOIL policy?
Yes, there is.
Is it on the actuary's website?
No,
Where's the written policy?
it resides in our office.
So it should be publicly stated.
Should a FOIL policy be publicly stated?
It's a FOIL request. How would you ask for FOIL if you can't, don't have it publicly stated?
FOIL policy, is that on the website?
I don't think so, no.
Interesting. Okay, my final question then is, so the Office of the Actuary is not a separate entity, it works for the boards, right?
Is OA a separate entity that works for the board?
In other words, who do you work for? You work for the boards?
Actuary is the technical advisor to the 3 retirement systems.
So you work for those boards?
Yes.
All right, so we have no further questions on that.
I think we request a copy of the written FOIL policy.
So I'd like to caucus with the union side.
Oh, wow. I gotta eat lunch.
Did you read this?
Yeah.
I read some good. But no.
Hey, Brian. What's up?
Oh, absolutely.
Should have been somebody.
Could have been somebody.
Hey, Roy, you're on.
So I think the board's been presented with a resolution by the actuary, and there's one modification that, well, two modifications I'd like to make, but I'd like to make a motion to adopt the resolution of the actuary in this February 2017, less with the following proviso. In paragraph 4, where it has "and each subsequent year's data thereafter," we'd like that deleted. And in paragraph 5, where it says "each subsequent year's data thereafter," we'd like it deleted. And the reasons behind that is that we feel that this is is something that should come to the board on an annual basis, and we'd like to consider the resolution as presented by the actuary, and we feel that it's an annual authority of the board. So I'd like to make that as a motion to approve the resolution as amended on the record.
Okay, very good. PBA, would you?
I'd like that, there'll be a subsequent request from the PBA after that, but I'd like to have a roll call vote.
Can I make a comment? Just for technicality, just for it to make sense, if in the 5th paragraph you want to delete each subsequent year's data thereafter, I think it makes more sense to delete "and to the extent GASB continues to require such actual reporting," because
Okay.
I didn't get that at all.
that's part of it.
Yeah, she's saying to take that.
So the 5th paragraph would
I got it.
resolve that the police board of trustees authorizes the actuary to utilize the June 30th, 2016 police pension census data to determine the OPEB obligations for the city and where appropriate certain components of it.
That's what it should read.
I
Revise and amend.
with the consent of the chair, I would wish to revise my my motion to pass the resolution with the amendment.
Sure.
To delete the words in the 5th paragraph, "to the extent GASB continues to require such actuarial reporting, each subsequent year's data thereafter," shall be deleted from the resolution.
Okay, fine. All right, ready for a roll call vote?
Roll call vote.
Okay, PBA,
PBA abstains at this time.
DEA,
Yes.
SBA,
Yes.
LBA,
Yes.
CEA.
Yes.
Finance,
Yes.
Mayor's Office,
Yes.
Police Commissioner,
Yes.
Controller.
Yes.
It's your report.
Your
You have these numbers.
Okay, your vote carries.
So the request, as the PBA has had in the past and has been supported by both sides of the table, is that the OPEB data that is ultimately created, we would like a copy of. And all trustees, as in the past, have been able to get a copy of them also.
Make sure that happens.
Thank you. Okay. The next item is discussion for purchase and credit for retro military service.
If the board recalls from the last time we discussed this subject, I was awaiting information from DCAS regarding how the list of members affected by the prior cleanup period undertaken by the Police Pension Fund on this subject, how that list was created, how the individuals were identified. I very recently received that information from DCAS. Too recently, unfortunately, to be able to, conclude the issue at this meeting. I am hopeful that I now have all the information that is necessary to understand in all necessary particulars how the process happened in the first place so that we can determine essentially whether the cleanup period should reopen for certain members. And I anticipate being able to address that issue at the next month's meeting, assuming that indeed DCAS has given me what they've reported to give me.
You said whether their cleanup period should reopen?
I mean, that's essentially what the board is requesting, right? For these particular members who have been denied pension credit after receiving RMS aid from DCAS.
Right.
they would like to receive that pension credit, notwithstanding that under USERA as written, they would have a specified time period in which to do that. The police pension fund cleanup period essentially waived the application of that period under USERA with respect to certain members identified by DCAS in the cleanup process.
Well, my recollection of this was probably 3-4 years ago now that this was voted on. It was that the cleanup period was going to run from whenever the member who was entitled to the benefit received notification, and then they were going to have a year or so to either make the application or to purchase back the time. Has that changed at all?
No, these are people who are not on the list of people who were the subject of that cleanup.
You guys pick up.
No change is being made as to the people who were on the identified cleanup period list for PDF. That process, my understanding of that process is that it's complete with respect to those people. This concerns a different set of people who were not part of the original cleanup.
Okay, I mean, we'll have a look at it. I think that the original resolution, again, acting from memory, was meant to include anyone that had an RMS date, not for a specific group of people that had been identified as of 2012. So, in other words, anyone that had been left out and not entitled to that credit, the period was meant to be reopened for anyone who fell into that class, not a specific set of people that may or may not have been identified by DCAS at that point. But we'll review the memo as comes out.
As soon as we get the memo.
Joe, can I just request that if to the extent you can find the resolution that was passed from 4 years ago that was just referenced, if you could just send that to the board as maybe a refresher of what was originally passed. And then I'd like to ask the law department if there's any background material. This is a very intricate topic as far as some of the details that are involved in that. So for those of us that are not members of the service, some of the terms and some of the things that are covered here are a little foreign to us. So it'd be helpful if prior to the meeting, if you could have that write up so that we could come to the table more prepared about the ins and outs of the issue. That would be helpful. So to the extent that that's available prior to the meeting, I would appreciate that.
Sure. And I think this point about the resolution, for what it's worth, is that's a new one to me. That is not my understanding of how
it's in the minutes of
it's in the minutes.
March or April of 2012.
We had gone over this, so I know that's definitely there was a lengthy discussion.
Yeah, to the extent something's available from the pension fund, that would be particularly helpful to me in understanding all of the and I was here for that, so I mean, so forgive me for not calling.
And I want to be clear. I think I'm not going to presume to talk for everybody here, but I know that based on the conversations that were going on, it was kind of the clear intent of this board to not to ensure that those members of the service who served in the military get every possible benefit that they're entitled to, and kind of any type of issues that might have been in terms of administrative issues, whatever, that this board was prepared to work through all of those administrative issues to ensure that these members got what they're entitled to. And I think that was pretty clear from that conversation.
Okay, any other questions for the law department on this? Nope.
We wait with bated breath for next month's memo.
All right, it'll be tabled again then.
Okay.
Thank you.
And the final matter on this is the ratification of electronic votes.
Vinny?
On January 20th, 2017, via electronic vote, the trustees voted unanimously to proceed with the securities litigation settlement. Details to be made public at the appropriate time. On January 24th, 2017, via electronic vote, the trustees voted 11.5 to 12 with one abstention to proceed with investment placeholders and rebalancing ranges. Details to be made public at the appropriate time.
Okay. So that ends the public session. Make a motion, we go into executive session.
Second.
Roy can run.
Thank you.